Why was JC foul upgraded to a flagrant 1? In judgment of the officials, the foul by Sheldon was unnecessary. The contact to Caitlin Clark's face. Furthermore, there was wind up and impact, and the contact to the face carries a potential for injury. Question: what went into deciding Marina should get a technical instead of something more severe like an ejection? She said the contact made by Mabry did not rise to the level.
The WNBA referees just released their official report on the Fever versus Sun match, and folks, it doesn't just make matters worse, it completely exposes the entire corrupt system for what it really is. These refs have had their say. They've responded to all the criticism, and what we got back was nothing short of a masterclass in how to talk complete and utter nonsense while pretending you're the good guys.
She said, Marina Mabry's technical foul from the Fever Sun game has been upgraded to a flagrant 2, the league told ESPN. A flagrant 2 comes from a standard fine. Additionally, Sophie Cunningham was fined separately for her hard foul with 40 seconds left to play. No players will be suspended. And a lot of fans were really upset about this because if Marina Mabry's foul during the game was called a flagrant 2, like it was upgraded to, then she would have been ejected during the game, and I don't think any of this stuff with Sophie and JC would have happened at the end of the game if the refs would have gotten control of the game much earlier on. And I do think if they would have ejected Marina Mabry during that whole play when she completely blindsided Caitlin, it wasn't a basketball play, it was after the whistle. If she would have been ejected at that point in time, I think it would have set the tone for the rest.
Let me break this down for you, because what we're witnessing here isn't just bad officiating. It's a systematic targeting of Indiana Fever players that's so blatant, so obvious, that even the ref's own explanations can't hide it anymore. If you're wearing an Indiana Fever jersey, particularly if your name is Caitlin Clark, you are literally 10 times less likely to have a decision go your way. And that's not hyperbole. That's just the truth staring us right in the face.
So Caitlin Clark gets poked in the eye. Marina Mabry doesn't even see what happens, and she just decides to clean Caitlin Clark out of it. And the referees just said, nah, it was not worth an injection. But now, in an update, it has been upgraded. It has been upgraded. So, she has now been upgraded to a flagrant 2. So basically, all they had to do was just eject her. All they had to do was eject her, and none of this happens. If the referees had ejected Marina Mabry, nothing else happens. The Sophie Cunningham situation does not happen.
So what did head referee Ashley Gloss have to say about this disaster of a game? Get ready for this gem. The contact made by Mabry did not warrant an ejection. Furthermore, it did not fulfill criteria for flagrant penalty 2. Are you kidding me right now? Marina Mabry blindsided Caitlin Clark, knocked her to the ground from behind after Clark was already dealing with getting poked in the eye, and somehow that doesn't warrant an ejection?
Ejection. How the fuck does that not rise to a level of ejection? Someone explain that to me. I think even in the NBA that might have been an ejection. I think both of them would have got ejected. She said additionally it did not meet the criteria for flagrant 1 foul penalty 2. So what does? Right? Question: why did Caitlin Clark get a technical foul? After the foul by Sheldon, Clark reached in an unsportsmanlike manner towards Sheldon. What type of sense? Yo, she got hit in the eye. And then in one angle, it looks like she got damn near punched. And then she trying to get up. She trying to get the girl off her. The girl attacks at her, and then Marina comes and knocks her down. That's crazy. So you gotta wait till something happens so the lead viewership could plummet for another.
But wait, it gets better. According to Gloss, Clark received a technical foul because she exhibited unsportsmanlike behavior towards Sheldon after getting her eye gouged. So let me get this straight. You get assaulted on the basketball court, and when you have the audacity to react like a human being, you get penalized for it. That's the level of backwards logic we're dealing with here.
The logic is that Caitlin Clark deserves to have people kind of go at her because she's a trash talker. Okay, if that is the logic. But the media are now saying Caitlin Clark brings everything on herself. And by the way, Caitlin Clark, if you want to say JC Sheldon getting in her face and like everything until the eye gouge, nobody brings eye gouges on themselves. This is the same as, oh, she brings it on herself with the push-off. Just call the hand check and the push-off doesn't happen.
The cherry on top? Sophie Cunningham gets ejected for a flagrant 2 foul when she finally decides to stand up for her teammate. But Marina Mabry, who committed what any reasonable person would call assault, initially got nothing more than a technical foul. Only after massive public outcry did they quietly upgrade Mabry's foul to a flagrant 2, but still no ejection. If you are enjoying, please subscribe.
They got it right at the end of the day, but why not get it right away? That is what most of us are talking about, man. There's no way y'all coming after the game and then now you're saying, oh, it should have been a flagrant 2. Oh, we should have. Look, you're catching the smoke and now you want to change it. You need to do it during the game. All right, during the game, go ahead and call it the way it is, man. Stop with the nonsense.
Here's where this gets really interesting. And by interesting, I mean absolutely infuriating. The statistics don't lie, even when the referees do. Caitlin Clark has suffered 17% of ALL flagrant fouls in the league this season. Let that sink in for a moment. One player accounting for nearly 1/5 of all flagrant fouls in an entire league. Either Clark is the most reckless player in WNBA history, or, and here's the crazy thought, maybe, just maybe, opponents are targeting her and refs are letting it happen. But the refs want us to believe this is all just coincidence. They want us to think that the most skilled, most watched, most marketable player in women's basketball just happens to be on the receiving end of disproportionate violence, and that has nothing to do with the way games are being officiated.
Specifically, detail what you mean by get control of the game, just to be in your words.
Get control of the game is call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Right, and consistently call the fouls that are actually happening on the floor. Okay, not just if somebody swings and misses, right? Consistently call the fouls.
Coach, do you think it's something pertaining to your team, or do you think this is a league-wide issue?
Well, I've seen quite a few dust-ups in the league so far, so I think it's a league-wide issue. I mean, bad officiating is bad officiating.
And then what did you make of Sophie Cunningham's flagrant foul on JC towards the end?
It was a flagrant foul.
Do you think it's like defending Caitlin or defending the team, or how do you view just how it all?
I view it as a flagrant foul.
I'll ask about the game, too.
Yeah, well, I mean, you guys came for basketball.
Yeah,
Let's talk about basketball. Come on.
Coach Stephanie White saw this coming from the first quarter of that Sun game. She literally told the officials that tensions were building, that something was going to happen if they didn't get control of the situation. And what did the refs do? They ignored her completely, let the game spiral out of control, and then acted shocked when everything exploded. The WNBA itself admitted that referees lost control of the Fever Sun game and acknowledged officiating errors, yet the primary disciplinary action taken was against Sophie Cunningham, the player who was defending her teammate rather than the instigator. Multiple sources confirm this isn't just about one game. Complaints about the refereeing have become so consistent and widespread in the WNBA that it represents a pattern of mistakes that are hampering the quality of play. However, Indiana appears to bear the brunt of these mistakes.
It blows my mind how they can somehow get refs for the WNBA that can't control the game. Like, half of your job as a ref is to control the players, control the game, make sure things don't randomly get out of hand. And then you just watch things get out of hand and you're like, dude, this is gonna go so viral later. Like, I'm convinced that's what the refs were thinking last night during the Fever and the Sun game. Dude, this is gonna go so viral later. Cause like, they had no control over that. Absolutely no control over that game, dog. And at the end of the season last year, one of the things I said, like, I really hope changes in the W between last year and this year is that they get better refs that kind of actually give a shit and like know what they're doing. And they haven't done that. They still haven't done that.
The most damning evidence of this corruption isn't just what happened in one game, it's the pattern of how different players get treated for similar actions. Marina Mabry commits a cheap shot that sends Clark crashing to the floor and initially walks away with a technical. Sophie Cunningham retaliates with a hard but controlled foul to send a message. And she's immediately ejected. Let's be crystal clear about what happened here. Cunningham's foul was intentional, yes, but it was also the kind of foul that happens in basketball when officials lose control of a game. She wrapped up Sheldon to prevent a layup. She didn't blindside her, she didn't target her head, she didn't commit the kind of dirty play that Mabry pulled on Clark. Yet somehow, in the ref's twisted logic, Cunningham's action was more deserving of ejection than Mabry's assault. The broadcasters called it out in real time, saying they were blaming this all on the officials, and that if they had taken care of business earlier, we wouldn't be in this situation. Even the people calling the game couldn't believe what they were witnessing.
She said no place in the game for what Sophie Cunningham did. What about what... She didn't say shit about what the other two people did. She said no place in the game for what Sophie Cunningham did. That warrants further review and penalty from the lead. But you're not gonna review and penalize what Marina and the other.
Indiana Fever coach Stephanie White deserves massive credit for having the courage to call out this corruption publicly. In her post-game press conference, she delivered one of the most devastating critiques of WNBA officiating we've ever heard. Everybody's getting better, except the officials. But White didn't stop there. She made it clear that this isn't just about one game. It's about an entire season of biased officiating against her team. The disrespect right now for our team has been pretty unbelievable, White said, and she's absolutely right. When your coach has to spend press conferences defending basic fairness instead of talking about basketball, you know the system is broken. White also pointed out something crucial that the refs don't want to admit. There's supposedly a system in place for teams to file grievances about officiating, but it doesn't work. I don't know if I have a feeling that the system works, she said, essentially calling out the entire WNBA for having a fake accountability system.
Every year when we have our league meetings in the fall and in the spring, we say the same thing over and over and over. And nothing has changed. So, I'm not sure outside of continuing to submit clips, continuing to talk about it. Like, look, their job is hard. Their job is hard. Their job is hard, right? Their job is hard. The game has changed so much. Players are faster, they're better, they're bigger, they're stronger. They're as good as they've ever been. They're as athletic as they've ever been. The game is fast now. Things are happening quickly. Everybody's getting better, except the officials.
After all the criticism, after all the evidence, after being called out by fans, coaches, and analysts nationwide, what did the WNBA do? They acknowledged there was an officiating error and said refs lost control. Oh, how generous of them to admit the obvious after being backed into a corner by overwhelming evidence. But here's the kicker. They didn't suspend anyone except Sophie Cunningham, who was just defending her team. Marina Mabrey gets a fine and moves on with her life. The message is crystal clear. If you're an Indiana Fever player, you'll be held to a completely different standard than everyone else in the league. The league's investigation is supposedly ongoing, but we all know how these things end. They'll issue some meaningless statement about improving officiating standards, maybe reassign a few refs for a game or two, and then go right back to the same corrupt practices.
So it's really people out here defending Marina Mabrey for Madden hit sticking Caitlin Clark to the floor, saying that she's just protecting her teammate. For one, it involved Caitlin Clark and JC Sheldon. They had their little spiel before that. And then JC Sheldon scratches Clark in the face, then invades her space after that. Clark pushes her away because of that. And then Marina Mabrey comes get involved and Madden hit sticks her to the floor, man. And y'all just like she was protecting her teammate. But then Sophie Cunningham is getting called vile and disgusting for dropping JC Sheldon to the floor and dragging her by the hair. So Sophie Cunningham can't stick up for her teammate, or else it's vile and disgusting. But Marina Mabrey could get involved in something that didn't involve her, and it's just she was protecting her teammate. The Caitlin Clark hate is so forced.
Let's talk about Sophie Cunningham for a moment, because her treatment perfectly encapsulates everything wrong with WNBA officiating. Cunningham has been one of the few players willing to stand up for Caitlin Clark when opponents get physical. She's shown the kind of teammate loyalty that you want to see in professional sports. But the refs have apparently decided that protecting your teammate is a bigger crime than targeting the league's biggest star. Cunningham gets ejected and fined for sending a message that the officials should have been sending all season long: don't touch our players. The irony is incredible. The same refs who won't protect Clark from obvious targeting will immediately eject anyone who tries to do their job for them. It's like they're actively encouraging opponents to take cheap shots at Indiana players while punishing anyone who fights back.
Petition to ban her. 181 people think that Sophie Cunningham should be banned from the WNBA for misconduct. Are you kidding me? We used to see something more intense than that every night in the NBA when I was a kid. What Sophie Cunningham did, man, honestly, maybe it's just too intense for you. Maybe you need another hobby. Maybe you should collect stamps rather than watch sports if you think what Sophie Cunningham did was out of line. And I assume that those are butthurt Connecticut Sun fans. I don't expect Caitlin Clark to get preferential treatment at all, but I expect her to get equal treatment to everybody else in the league. It cannot be open season on the face of the league any longer.
Let's examine each of the referees' explanations because they fall apart under the slightest scrutiny. Ashley Gloss claimed that Mabry's contact did not warrant an ejection, but by what standard? If shoving an opponent to the ground from behind during a dead ball situation doesn't warrant ejection, then what exactly does? Gloss also said Clark's technical was justified because she showed unsportsmanlike behavior. But what's unsportsmanlike about reacting to getting your eye poked and then getting blindsided? Are players supposed to just smile and say thank you when opponents assault them? The refs want us to believe they're applying the rules consistently, but their own actions prove that's a lie. If they were consistent, Marina Mabry would have been ejected immediately. If they were consistent, Caitlin Clark wouldn't be suffering nearly 20% of all flagrant fouls in the league.
More importantly, the league, the refs, you're going to let people take cheap shots like that over and over and over at the face of your league, the future of the league, the most important player in your league? How do you not eject her? How do you not eject her? And that leads to the end of the game. Finally, when Sophie Cunningham, the other girl from Ohio State, I don't even forget her name, she's so irrelevant, the one who raked Caitlin in the eyes, driving down for a layup, and Sophie hard fouls her, then puts her in like a chokehold, bench clearing brawl. Finally, somebody stands up, and that's what the Fever are going to have to do. And the coach said it after the game. If the refs are going to let people have open season on Caitlin, bump her, knock her down, throw her down, cheap shot her, it's time for the Fever to wake up like Sophie Cunningham did and say, enough is enough.
This corruption goes way beyond one game or even one season. What we're seeing is a systematic effort to diminish the impact of the most transformative player women's basketball has ever seen. The officials have decided that Caitlin Clark's success threatens their preferred narratives, so they're going to make her path as difficult as possible. The evidence is overwhelming. The statistics are damning. That the pattern is undeniable. Yet the refs continue to gaslight fans with explanations that insult our intelligence. WNBA analyst Annie Costabile summed it up perfectly. There's been a lot of evidence over the years, specifically the last 2, that have indicated that the officials need to grow with the game. And we haven't quite seen that reflected as of late. The game is evolving, the talent is improving, but the officiating is stuck in the past.
We watch the WNBA every day because of the way they play the game, because I love the WNBA. I love the way they play the game. But we really watch it because Caitlin Clark and everybody watching. Now listen, if I keep bumping her, knocking her down, might get her a concussion, you might hurt her for real. For 2 weeks, she was done with like a hamstring. She was down. 55% of the viewership was down. She comes back the next game, it's about 3 million viewers. Now let me tell you something. Growing up in the hood, they teach you this. Always protect the money. Y'all keep hurting her and all that. She going for a year or 2. Ain't nobody gonna watch it. If nobody watches, how y'all gonna make and generate money? Stop playing with that girl home. Look, y'all need to start doing is put them emails together with the commissioner to the referees. Don't put y'all damn hands on Caitlin like that. You can foul her, but don't hurt her. And if you hurt her, it's gonna hurt your pocket.
The WNBA has a choice to make. They can continue protecting corrupt officials and pretending this bias doesn't exist, or they can actually address the systemic problems that are damaging their product. Because make no mistake, this corruption is hurting the entire league. Fans aren't stupid. We can see what's happening. When virtually every observer reaches the same conclusion about officiating bias, that's not a coincidence. It's evidence. The refs' explanations aren't fooling anyone except themselves. The time for excuses is over. The time for fake accountability systems is over. Sophie Cunningham shouldn't have to be an enforcer because the referees won't do their jobs. Caitlin Clark shouldn't have to play through obvious targeting because officials want to protect certain narratives. This isn't about one player or one team anymore. It's about the integrity of the entire sport. And right now, that integrity is being undermined by officials who care more about controlling outcomes than calling fair games. The WNBA better wake up and fix this corruption before they lose the very fans they've worked so hard to attract.